The Nintendo Wii released at the end of 2006 and the company had the genius idea to bundle the console with Wii Sports, a small collection of simple games to showcase the main gimmick of the console, the motion controls. And people ate it up. Kids played it, their parents played it, even their grandparents played it. And it led to one of the most successful console launches of all time. The games aren't too special nowadays, but they worked for what they were. The game got a sequel a few years down the line that expanded on the minigame selection and was meant to showcase the Wii Remote's Motion Plus add-on, and while it didn't have the same impact as the initial launch, it sold about 7 million copies and was a nice addition to the Wii library. The Nintendo Switch launched in 2017 without a sports game. While 1-2 Switch had some sport activities like boxing and sword fighting or table tennis, this game wasn't really about demonstrating the motion controls, but the new HD Rumble feature. The game was fun, a bit too expensive for what it was, but a neat little experience that should have just been bundled with the console. And now, 5 years after the Switch's initial launch, Nintendo released the next-gen follow-up to Wii Sports with Nintendo Switch Sports, a small collection of simple minigames played completely with motion controls. The game is fun, a bit too expensive for what it is, but a neat little experience that should have been bundled with the console. The game just doesn't offer the same as Wii Sports back then. It's just a really small selection of really simple motion control minigames that plays worse than its 15-year-old predecessor, not to mention contemporary games, and doesn't have the same impact by far. And it all comes down to the controls. Many of the inputs feel digital or binary. You physically performing the motion functions more like a button press, the worst use of motion controls. Your hands don't really connect with the ball and push it away. Your movements don't translate to the same movement in the game. By swinging the Joy-Con, your character executes static maneuvers. You can move the tennis racket around, but swinging it results always in the same action with the same animation. And the shootout game is fucking bullshit.
The fuck?
Wii Sports felt a lot smoother, even though it handled some of the games the same way. I guess the size and weight of the Wiimote helped to make the movements feel a bit more natural. And I think that this binary control scheme works better in games like tennis and even helps in something like baseball, but it just feels out of place when trying to pass or set or spike in volleyball or kick the giant-ass soccer ball. Not only do I have to actively do things I try to avoid in real volleyball, but why can't the game not just track my actual hands? Why doesn't the ball bounce off my outstretched arms and the angle or motion just determines how clean the pass is executed? Why do I have to activate the set animation at the exactly right moment instead of being able to push the ball myself by moving my hands upwards and, again, let speed and angle decide how well the set is executed? Same with spiking, but since it is pretty fast, it feels a bit more natural, but you still notice the binary nature of this when jumping too soon. Then you'll notice that you don't have to hit the ball, but only swing the Joy-Con at the right moment to let the animation play out. And you also don't have a lot control over the direction you're gonna hit the ball. The system where well-executed actions build up power for a faster and stronger spike, while badly executed actions decrease attack power, led to a really fun gameplay loop. It's just too bad that the controls don't really complement this mechanic. Tennis and badminton feel a lot better, though it's still a bit off due to the small size and low weight of the Joy-Con. Sometimes you swing the controller but it doesn't register as an actual swing, but it works fine most of the time. Chambara Swordfighting has the best use of motion controls. You can angle the sword in 360 degrees, point in front of you, hold it overhead or wherever you want. By pressing the shoulder button you'll take a defensive stance, where you have to angle your sword perpendicular to your opponent's strikes. Attacking and defending only uses 8 directions with a bit of leeway, but it works well enough. And there are even 3 different fighting styles, more or less. You can select one of 3 loadouts: a standard sword that has the highest attack strength, an energy sword that builds up strength with every successful block, and the twin blades that give you more attack speed and slowly build up to a powerful spin attack. While the gameplay doesn't change much, it's fun to experiment and discover your favorite fighting style. Soccer is quite fun because you can freely run around with the thumbstick and kick the ball by swinging the Joy-Con to either side. You can even control the height of the kick, you can dive towards the ball or jump to catch the ball in the air. It's like a less frantic Rocket League. And if it weren't for the shootouts, this would have been the perfect game. Bowling handles as expected. You have to mimic the motion of swinging back and throwing the bowling ball, and you can even give the ball a spin by turning your wrist left or right. It's a bit weird that you mustn't let go of the shoulder button to throw the ball, but you'll get used to it pretty quickly. There is a normal mode as well as obstacles and challenges, similar to the original game on the Wii. And the online play went the route of elimination rounds. The game starts with 16 players playing simultaneously, but after 3 rounds, half of them will be eliminated. The same happens after the 6th round and once again after the 9th. So that the last 3 players battle for the first place. It's a really fun way to handle multiplayer or online play and not have the game drag on for too long. If it weren't for 2 things. First, you can't decide for yourself which mode to play. There is no way to play a full set against online opponents, and if the game decides that it wants you to play the silly challenge maps, then you just have to comply. Second, as soon as you've played enough games to have been awarded a rank, you are forced into ranked play every time. And in the case of bowling, that means you have to play perfectly, because everyone else does. So every match is everyone getting strikes or spares, and those who are first to miss a single pin are the ones to get eliminated. This sadly makes the game less interesting and not more. If every throw has to be perfect or nearly perfect, then there's no real tension or dynamic anymore. Maybe in ranked play, elimination should happen after more rounds, to give players a chance to recover or others a chance to fuck up. But this problem could also be solved by just giving the player the option to play either ranked or casual. Well, and these were all the games. In local play there are a few more modes for some of the games, and golf is going to get added later this year, but that's mostly it. If you have a big family or friends who are into casual gaming, then you can get a good portion of fun out of this. If you're mostly playing on your own or online, well, then you really have to enjoy these simple little games. But to keep you going, the game has a bunch of unlockable cosmetics that you can only unlock by playing online, which sucks. Especially since the network works as well as you've come to expect from Nintendo. So prepare for constant connection errors and long queue times. Can someone explain to me again why we should pay even more for this broken service? It's always fun to wait for an eternity just to get another connection error. Well, at least I got a good laugh out of this fetus juice. The game said that it will sometimes fill up an empty slot with bots, but I haven't seen it once. Mostly I just get booted out of the lobby. This game's solution to long waiting times is the ability to select up to 3 sports to queue up in simultaneously, and the game throws you into the lobby that filled up the fastest. But what if I wanted to play a specific activity? Why even have a lobby if I can't create a room, invite players or have a rematch? All I can do is queue up with randos with no control whatsoever. But instead of just having all players in the same queue and dividing them in the most optimal way, the game creates all these small little lobbies where you have to wait for a single player to join even though there are other players waiting in another random lobby. Or do the bot thing the game mentioned when you first booted up the online mode. Where was I? Right, cosmetics. I see why local multiplayer doesn't give any rewards, because it's too easy to cheat. But at least CPU challenges could have awarded the player with some cosmetic items. The way it works now, every time you'll play an online match, you'll get some points. More for good and long play, and even more for winning. And for every 100 points you can select one cosmetic item of a weekly rotation. And when I say select, I of course mean get handed one at random. All you can do is choose one of the temporarily available collections from which you want to get the random reward. These collections disappear after 2 weeks or so, but getting to 100 points doesn't take too long, so you should have plenty of time to get every item. And getting every item of a collection even rewards you with another bonus outfit. I'm not sure how I feel about it. There are no microtransactions as of yet, and getting to 100 points is rather quick, but the system simulates all the other microtransaction random lootbox stores, and it incentivizes this daily task behavior of free-to-play games to get all the items of a collection before it disappears. This kinda trains players to accept these systems and normalizes them. Maybe this is just me, but I really don't like this notion. Why can't we just earn points to buy some games from an in-game shop without items disappearing? Or maybe we unlock these cosmetics by completing challenges and achieving certain ranks. I do like me some unlockable content, but I just don't want to see all this free-to-play microtransaction bullshit, even if it doesn't actually cost anything. The design itself is bad, the business model only makes it worse. And before I end this video, let me rant about another thing. Joycon Drift. This game has to be played with Joy-Cons, and you have to connect both a left and right Joy-Con. Even for games that only use one controller and can be played with only the right Joy-Con. I have 3 pairs of Joy-Cons. 2 of them drift bad. And I'm only waiting for the 3rd one to do as well. Most of the time I have a special retro Joy-Con connected to the left controller slot that doesn't have the drift problem because it doesn't have all the fancy tech in it. Problem is, it doesn't work wireless. It can only be used in handheld mode. So when I started the game, I had to first charge my other Joy-Cons, one after the other, to see which one had the least drift. And yeah, that's on me. I could have just remembered which one of these shitty controllers was still working. But I mean, I had to do this even though I only needed one controller and I had multiple perfectly fine working Joy-Cons, just not one for the left hand. Which I didn't even need, but the game insisted that I connected one. Just to fuck up my game. Nintendo just released a game that has to be played with motion controls. Again. So maybe it's time that they get their shit together and fix their fucking Joy-Con drift problem. But you have an awesome day. That's it from Rady, and I hope to see you on the next game.